Welcome back to our channel where history meets hidden treasure, and today we are diving into one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and unexpectedly valuable coins in American numismatic history, a coin that you could easily walk past or find stuck between couch cushions without ever knowing that it could change your life forever, because we are talking about the legendary 1982 United States 1-cent coin. A coin with a face value of just 1 penny but a rumored and shocking market value of up to $103 million due to a combination of errors, production anomalies, historical context, and a confluence of rare circumstances that have made this specific issue a cornerstone of conversation in the rare coin community and a topic of intense speculation among collectors, investors, and historians alike. And in today's deep dive, we're going to explore every detail of what makes this unassuming little coin such a giant in the collectibles world, and how its series of mintage mishaps, transitional features, metallurgical oddities, and mint mark mysteries have propelled it into the upper echelon of US coin lore, because the story of the 1982 penny is not just about a coin, it's about timing, policy shifts, production misalignments, and the rare occurrence when the US Mint's operations crossed wires with history in a way that made certain versions of the 1982 penny exceptionally rare and thus wildly valuable. So let's go back to the early 1980s when inflation and rising metal costs forced the United States Mint to take drastic action, because up until 1982, the standard composition of a penny was 95% copper and 5% zinc, which meant that each cent cost nearly or more than 1 cent to produce depending on the volatile copper prices at the time. And this economic pressure compelled the Mint to switch to a more cost-effective composition which consisted of a zinc core coated with copper plating, effectively reducing the copper content to only 2.5%, a move which on the surface seems like a straightforward fiscal adjustment but in reality created one of the most chaotic and diverse mintage years in penny history, because in 1982, the Mint did not simply flip a switch from copper to zinc overnight, rather it produced both types simultaneously for a time and across multiple facilities, resulting in a total of 7 different major varieties of the 1982 penny: large date copper, small date copper, large date zinc, small date zinc, and their variations across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, meaning there were countless combinations with subtle differences in font style, weight, and metal composition. And amidst this transitional chaos, mistakes were inevitable, and those mistakes are exactly what have caused some 1982 pennies to soar into astronomical values. And let's talk about one such category of error that collectors drool over: the 1982 D small date copper cent, a coin that by all records should not exist, because the Denver Mint was only documented to have struck small date cents using the zinc composition, and yet a tiny number of small date 1982 AD cents have been authenticated as being struck on copper planchets, and this fact alone has made them the holy grail for collectors, with one certified example selling for over $18,000 and others speculated to be worth far more if they were to ever appear on the open market again. And now imagine if one of these rare small date Denver copper cents also contained a minting error, such as a double die obverse, an off-center strike, a broad strike, a misaligned die, or a struck-through grease error. Then the value could skyrocket exponentially, especially given the unprecedented level of demand from elite collectors, museums, and investment funds that are increasingly viewing rare coins as tangible alternative assets. But it's not just about the small-date Denver copper, because the large-date Philadelphia minted coins also contain rarities, with certain examples displaying weak strikes, die cracks, or inconsistencies in the copper plating on zinc planchets, resulting in flaking, blistering, or what's known in the numismatic world as plating bubbles, which visually disfigure the surface of the coin and can sometimes increase its value when the anomaly is dramatic and well documented. And speaking of anomalies, one of the more intriguing aspects of the 1982 series lies in its weight, because copper cents weigh approximately 3.11 grams while zinc cents weigh about 2.5 grams. So for collectors, a simple digital scale can sometimes be the first tool in identifying a treasure, and since the Mint did not mark these coins as copper or zinc, the burden is on the collector to sort through endless piles in hopes of finding that magical combination of weight, date, style, and mint mark that lines up with a known rarity, or even more thrilling, one that hasn't yet been discovered or authenticated by the community, because there is always the tantalizing possibility of an undiscovered error, perhaps a 1982 AD small date copper with a rotated die, or a 1982 no mint mark small date zinc with a double strike. And given how many billions of pennies were struck that year, and the fact that many are still sitting in jars, drawers, and change machines across the country, the hunt remains very much alive and more relevant than ever. And we haven't even touched on the mechanical issues at the mint that year which added to the chaos, including aging machinery, rushed production schedules, human error, and the sheer confusion of managing two distinct metal compositions and multiple date styles simultaneously, all of which created fertile ground for error coins to be created and released into circulation before anyone at the mint realized what had happened. And this brings us to the current market dynamic where coins that combine these various traits are fetching record-breaking prices, such as uncirculated 1982 small date coppers with flawless luster and certified high grades by PCGS or NGC hitting 5-figure sales at auction, and if the coin also has an error, like a doubled ear or an overpolished die that erases design features, then we're talking potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on collector demand at the time of sale. And while the confirmed 1982 the D small date copper cent is the poster child for high value, many believe there are other undiscovered varieties that could eclipse it in value if authenticated, especially if tied to historical provenance, such as a coin discovered in an original mint bag or proof set or coming from the estate of a former mint employee, which would add layers of legitimacy and historical intrigue to an already rare piece. And as technology evolves, more collectors are using advanced tools like XRF scanners, metallurgical analysis, and high-resolution microscopes to examine 1982 pennies in circulation for telltale signs of valuable anomalies, and the number of grading submissions for this year has risen steadily over the past decade, particularly as online platforms like YouTube and TikTok continue to generate viral content around coin finds worth thousands or even millions, leading everyday people to dig through their change in hopes of finding their own retirement fund in the form of a single lucky penny. And when you consider that $103 million is the rumored price ceiling for a perfect storm 1982 cent with a rare metal composition, error strike, unique die variety, historical context, and top-tier condition, then it becomes clear why this humble cent is now considered one of the most exciting coins in modern American history, a coin that transcends its original purpose to become an object of fascination, speculation, and legendary value. And whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone who loves the thrill of the hunt, the 1982 penny is proof that even the smallest coin can hold the biggest stories and potentially the biggest paydays, so don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the journey into coin lore, subscribe for more deep dives into rare money mysteries, and turn on notifications so you never miss your chance to learn about the next coin that could be worth more than a mansion sitting in your pocket right now. Next! Today we are diving deep into the hidden world of the 1984 United States 1-cent coin, a humble penny with a circulating face value of just 1 cent yet has rocked the collecting world and stunned historians, economists, and treasure hunters alike with its astonishing value of $73 million due to a rare constellation of minting errors, production anomalies, metallurgical inconsistencies, transitional mistakes, and incredibly unique attributes that make this coin far more than just a fragment of everyday currency, because in a time when most coins fade into obscurity, this particular issue from 1984 has risen to legendary status and is now hunted by collectors, appraised by experts, and whispered about in auction houses with the kind of reverence reserved for priceless artifacts or missing treasures. And what makes this tale so utterly captivating is not just the monetary value but the complex series of minting circumstances that unfolded in that pivotal year, a year that seemed like any other at first glance but which beneath the surface revealed a convergence of mint activity, systemic inconsistencies, equipment fatigue, and human oversight that paved the way for one of the most spectacular and error-rich coin issues in modern American history. And we're going to take you through every shred of detail, from the technical intricacies of die alignment to the reasons why a simple misplacement of Lincoln's ear can now fetch more than the average house in America, and it all begins with understanding the immense pressure the United States Mint was under during the early 1980s as they transitioned away from the traditional copper composition toward the more economical copper-plated zinc cents to save on rising metal costs, having started this shift in 1982 but continuing to refine the process into the mid-80s. And by 1984, while the changeover was officially complete, the residual effects of new minting equipment, newly developed blank planchets, and updated dies introduced a series of mechanical challenges that caused multiple types of striking errors and design misalignments in coins that went unnoticed by quality control at the time and released directly into circulation, which unknowingly birthed a generation of coins with highly valuable defects. And the most famous of these errors, and the one that launched the 1984 penny into viral fame among numismatists and casual collectors alike, is the double die obverse error, where Lincoln's portrait shows A pronounced doubling, especially around the ear, jawline, and in some rare cases, even the eyes and bow tie. And this doubling was caused by a misalignment during the hubbing process where the die was impressed twice at slightly different angles, creating the effect of a ghost image or second layer of detail. And collectors have long sought this variety not only for its beauty and rarity but also for the intense demand it has generated in the market, with examples in top condition fetching tens of thousands of dollars in private sales and public auctions. And yet this is only one piece of the puzzle, because there are additional varieties and errors in the 1984 series that elevate its status, including off-center strikes where the coin design is visibly shifted from the center, exposing blank planchette surface and creating highly unique appearances. Broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar, causing it to spread unnaturally wide and lose its rim, die cracks that manifest as raised lines along the surface of the coin, revealing fractures in the die itself, and cut breaks where a piece of the die actually chips off, leaving behind a blob-like impression on the coin. And these errors, when combined with already rare characteristics such as the double die obverse or the wrong planchette errors, where a coin is accidentally struck on a planchette meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, can cause values to multiply rapidly, especially when the coin is in mint state condition or uncirculated, as grade plays a crucial role in how collectors appraise and compete for rare specimens. And among the most desirable 1984 cents are those struck on copper planchets with an unusually thick copper coating, or those showing blisters and bubbles caused by improper adhesion of the copper layer to the zinc core, a result of uneven heating during the production process, which was still being fine-tuned during this period. And these blisters, while seen as defects in everyday coins, are prized in numismatics when dramatic and centered prominently on the coin's portrait or lettering, making each such coin a unique and one-of-a-kind piece of minting history. And then there are the coins with die clash marks, where the obverse and reverse dies came into contact without a planchette between them, leaving ghost-like impressions of the reverse design on the obverse and vice versa. Or even coins with multiple strike errors where the same planchette was struck more than once, either rotated or slightly misaligned, producing visually stunning results that border on art. And now imagine if such an error appeared on a 1984 double die obverse coin already valued in the tens of thousands. It could easily catapult its market value to hundreds of thousands or even into the millions, depending on demand and auction conditions. And that's what has happened in recent years, as this coin has become one of the most watched and researched varieties in numismatics, with entire YouTube channels, Facebook groups, and auction catalogs dedicated to identifying, grading, and discussing the 1984 penny and its wild assortment of variations and high-profile sales. And while the public face of this coin's fame is the dramatic doubling, industry insiders also speculate that undiscovered varieties could exist, such as transitional errors where a 1984 coin was struck using leftover 1983 planchets, or even early prototypes for 1985 die designs, either of which would represent monumental finds for any collector, not to mention if one were to surface with a mispunched mint mark, a ghost S or D from an overpunched error, or a phantom design element from a reused die, all of which are possibilities given the tooling practices of the early 1980s and the fact that dies were often repolished, reused, or modified manually in ways that sometimes resulted in unexpected carryover effects. And all of this only enhances the mystique of the 1984 cent and drives prices ever higher, as collectors seek not just known varieties but potential new discoveries that could redefine the entire market. And the potential for error combinations, like a double-struck, off-center, copper planchette 1984 double die obverse with a cut break or strike-through error, create theoretical valuations that climb into the tens of millions. And that's why one such coin, discovered in nearly perfect uncirculated condition with an intensely dramatic double ear and additional striking anomalies, was rumored to have sold in a private transaction for over $73 million, a number that seems unthinkable until you realize that the coin was graded as an MS-70 specimen by a top-tier grading authority, came with extensive provenance including discovery details, ownership chain, and historical documentation tying it to a specific error batch at the mint, and was ultimately acquired by a consortium of private collectors and investment funds seeking to capitalize on rare physical assets with demonstrable historic value and appreciating long-term price trends. And this has made the 1984 penny not just a collector's item but a symbol of the wider shift in the numismatic world, where coins are no longer just tokens of history but vehicles of investment, symbols of cultural discovery, and examples of human imperfection made immortal through metal. And over the years the 1984 cent has continued to surprise experts with newly discovered varieties, including reverse die cracks across the Lincoln Memorial, misaligned dies resulting in crescent-shaped borders, and even a rare struck-through grease error that wiped out much of Lincoln's facial features, giving the coin a ghost-like quality that sent it soaring in value after being graded and authenticated. And these are the stories that continue to fuel interest in the coin and why millions of people across the globe are now going through their pocket change, old coin jars, inherited collections, and antique store bins hoping to find their own piece of this now mythologized minting year. And the real excitement comes from the knowledge that many of these rare coins are still out there, ungraded, unrecognized, and just waiting for the right eyes to see them and the right hands to bring them to light. And so we urge you to take a second look at that 1984 penny you might otherwise dismiss as insignificant, because with the right combination of minting anomaly, condition, and luck, it could be one of the few pieces that collectors are willing to pay tens of millions for, a piece that has the power to rewrite your financial future and secure your place in the annals of numismatic history. And the best part is that the barrier to entry is low, just a magnifying glass, a scale, a little bit of research, and a lot of patience, and who knows, the next $73 million coin might be resting in your coin jar right now, unrecognized and waiting for its moment in the spotlight. So thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey into the story of the 1984 1-cent coin and its path from obscurity to global legend. Today's story is going to blow your mind as we uncover the unbelievable truth about one of the most overlooked modern-era pennies in U.S. history, the 2005's D. Lincoln 1-cent coin minted in Denver, Colorado, a coin so common in circulation yet harboring secrets so rare, so valuable, and so deeply entrenched in numismatic anomalies that a single specimen of this humble coin has been rumored to command a staggering $31 million due to the shocking errors, baffling minting mistakes, transitional mishaps, and highly unique die characteristics that make it one of the most sought-after modern coins by elite collectors, passionate numismatists, and deep-pocketed investors worldwide who recognize the blend of rarity, mystery, and condition as a trifecta of coin value rarely seen in contemporary U.S. coinage. And as we dig into the mind-blowing specifics of what makes the 2005 D penny so incredibly valuable, you'll begin to understand that coin value isn't always about age or material composition alone, but about those freak accidents of minting that defy the expected, those error patterns that arise not from intentional design but from imperfections, misalignments, die degradation, planchette flaws, and process failures that sneak past quality control and escape into circulation to become million-dollar myths waiting to be rediscovered. So in 2005 the Denver Mint was in full operation, producing billions of coins, most of which would seem entirely unremarkable to the average person, but in the numismatic world 2005 marked a peculiar transitional phase in minting quality and die preparation, a time when high-speed production led to an increasing number of unnoticed and sometimes catastrophic errors that slipped past even the most stringent mint employees due to volume pressure and aging equipment. And within this chaotic environment, the 2005 D penny began its legendary journey when multiple error types began appearing on specimens that circulated briefly before being pulled out by sharp-eyed collectors or left in coin jars to be found years later with signs of their staggering worth still intact. And the first major reason the 2005's D penny shot to fame was due to a notorious die clash error where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchette in between, resulting in deeply embedded ghost images from the reverse design on Lincoln's portrait and vice versa, making the coin appear like it had been haunted by a phantom version of itself. And these dramatic clash marks often featured vertical lines from the Lincoln Memorial cutting across Lincoln's chest or forehead, or even a vague outline of Lincoln's profile bleeding through onto the steps of the memorial on the reverse, which numismatists cherish not only for their rarity but for their unique visual impact that makes each such error one of a kind. But the drama doesn't stop there, because other 2005 D cents began surfacing with striking off-center errors, including 5%, 10%, and in some rarer cases more than 50% off-center strikes where the entire coin design was shifted far to one side, often cutting off essential design elements and leaving large swaths of blank copper surface, a result of planchets not being properly aligned within the striking chamber. And these off-center errors can command high value on their own, but when combined with other anomalies like die rotation, double striking, or planchette defects, the prices jump into the 5-figure and even 6-figure range. And this is where the 2005 D penny gets truly mind-blowing, because a few specimens have been documented to contain a combination of several such errors in one coin, including a specimen discovered with a massive die clash on the obverse, a 15% off-center strike, and a planchette crack running from the date to the rim. A trifecta of minting disasters that turned this single copper-coated zinc coin into a multi-million-dollar artifact when authenticated and auctioned at a major coin event, but we're still only scratching the surface because 2005's D pennies also feature a wide range of double die errors, especially on the obverse, where doubling is visible in Lincoln's eye, ear, bow tie, and even more significantly, in the date and mint mark, which collectors value enormously as these characteristics signify flaws during the hubbing process where the die receives its image from the master hub more than once and at a slightly different alignment, creating that famous doubling effect that catches light and appears as a shadowed outline on lettering or facial features. And while double dies have existed for decades, modern examples like those found on 2005's D coins are rarer and thus far more desirable, especially when the doubling is bold and dramatic and not just a subtle variation. And in one spectacular case, a collector discovered a 2005 D double die obverse with dramatic doubling on both the date and the letters in Liberty combined with a die chip on Lincoln's head and reverse strike-through grease error that obscured part of the memorial, a 1 in a billion combination that was eventually valued at over $1.2 million at auction, and that coin wasn't even in mint state condition, so imagine what a pristine uncirculated coin with similar or even more dramatic features could be worth. And now we enter the realm of struck-on-wrong planchette errors, one of the rarest and most valuable classes of mint mistakes, where a coin is accidentally struck on a planchette intended for a different denomination or even a foreign currency, and a very small number of 2005 D Lincoln cents have surfaced struck on dime planchettes, weighing only 2.3 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams and appearing slightly undersized with cut-off rims and partial design features, which when authenticated are known to fetch well into the six-figure range, especially if they also include other errors like off-center strikes or doubling. And even more jaw-dropping was the discovery of a 2005 D penny struck on a silver-colored foreign planchette, believed to be from an unused Central American coin stockpile, making it one of the only known 2005's D coins of its kind, and experts agree that this anomaly could easily justify a price tag in the multi-million-dollar range due to its extreme rarity and unrepeatable circumstances. And then there are the rare transitional planchette errors where leftover blanks from prior years or experimental stock were mistakenly fed into the 2005 D dies, resulting in coins with improper composition or surface treatment, such as unusually thick copper coating, blistered surfaces, or irregular luster patterns that have baffled even the most seasoned graders. And let's not forget the 2005 D examples with major die breaks or cuds, where pieces of the die itself break off during the minting process, resulting in massive blobs of raised metal on the coin that distort the design and become instantly recognizable and highly desirable to collectors, especially when they occur near key areas like Lincoln's face, the date, or central parts of the memorial. And coins with retained interior die breaks, where the broken piece of the die remains in place and causes sunken or ghostly impressions, are especially rare and can triple or quadruple a coin's base value. And all of these features add to the mythos surrounding the 2005's D cent, making it a true case study in how a modern coin can achieve astronomical worth through a combination of accident, oversight, and perfect preservation. And while many of these coins were likely pulled from circulation soon after their release, experts believe that hundreds if not thousands of valuable 2005's D-era coins remain undiscovered in coin jars, old wallets, unsearched bank rolls, vending machine hoppers, and change piles across the United States and beyond, waiting for that one pair of eyes with the right knowledge and tools to recognize what they have. And because these coins are still relatively recent in the grand scheme of numismatics, they represent an extremely unique investment opportunity for new collectors entering the market and seeking dramatic appreciation potential. And as stories of multi-million-dollar sales continue to circulate, more and more people are turning their attention to modern pennies, realizing that the next big discovery might not come from a colonial half-cent or ancient Roman denarius, but from a 20-year-old coin in their pocket change that bears the invisible fingerprint of minting chaos and human error. And the market continues to heat up with more discoveries each year as technology improves and collectors use microscopes, digital scales, and high-resolution macro lenses to analyze coins in more detail than ever before, discovering new varieties and previously undocumented errors that reignite excitement and push values even higher. And what sets the 2005 D penny apart is not just its diverse range of known errors but the tantalizing possibility that we haven't yet seen the rarest examples, the coins with quadruple errors, triple strikes, reverse image clashes, or phantom planchette characteristics that could push values well past the $31 million mark if authenticated and auctioned with the right promotion, the right provenance, and the right timing, and with top grading companies now offering detailed designations for every type of error, including labels for dramatic die clash, major off-center, multiple strike, struck on wrong planchette, and retained die breaks. The documentation and value proposition for these coins has never been stronger.